sort of PAV system, I feel like I'm rolling the dice. Is it gonna work today?
It looks like, from what I'm seeing here, it looks like a bit of a empty chambers. I see the mayor just walked in, you.
There's folks still in the back ready to come in.
Okay.
Hello, Chaplain.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the Village Council regular meeting, February 13, 2024, to order. I show the time at 6:04 p.m. I show a full quorum on site with Mr. Mark Elise, Councilman Mark Elise, participating remotely. With that, I'd like to consider allowing a remote participation. I need a motion for that.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays, none. Motion is accepted unanimously. Next up, we have adoption of the agenda. We have any changes or
I need to
subtractions?
add closed session pursuant to NCGS 143318.11A3 to consult with the attorney retained by the public body to preserve the attorney-client privilege.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so, oh, you're adding that to that, so.
I'm adding it to that.
And that's the only thing?
Now, there was one closed session on there, and this is the second one that needs to be on there.
Okay. And that's all the changes we have?
That's all the changes I have.
Okay. And with that, I'll need a motion to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up, we have adoption of the previous minutes. Any questions? Comments? You guys all get a chance to read those? Thought I had one on the second. One of the meetings I was not there, but participated. Any comments, changes?
I'm fine, Mayor.
Hearing none, I will need a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved.
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Next up is the Pledge of Allegiance.
United States of America. To the republic which stands.
Got a little delay there, Bob.
Yeah, I didn't want to override you guys. Sorry.
Thank you, sir. All right, next up, we have public comment. Do we have anyone signed up to speak?
We do.
Terrific. All right. I'm going to ask you to come up, state your name and address. You get 3 minutes to talk. There's no back and forth, so it's just a public comment period. So if you'd honor that, that would be great. And I'll have Kim do the timing. Welcome.
Welcome. Just going to introduce before the 3 minutes start. I'm Janet Jeanette, Marvin Creek. Attended that January 29th meeting and here to discuss the possible disconnect between the village and our neighbors. I'm just me. I don't represent any groups. I'm just wanting to be me as my citizen. Now I'm starting. So at our clubhouse in Marvin Creek, at one of our HOA meetings, we talked about clubhouse vandalism and about how
Yeah, you want to move that closer.
what we could
to you.
do to improve that, to take
Pull
care
it
of
down.
to take care of the vandalism and catch the people, and many meetings were spent with that. Then around that time, there was a blood drive, and people in the community said, well, we don't want a blood drive anymore because that's just bringing citizens from outside the community in, and they're learning more about Marvin Creek, and that's just bringing more trouble. And then Marvin Branch came along, and we had someone come from there, and they said something about, well, we want to connect the trails, our trails to their trails. And again, I heard people in my neighborhood saying, well, we don't want to connect, we don't want all these people to come in, and we don't want more trouble. So then I came in here to speak to someone just about something else earlier this year, I guess it was, and I saw the chart of the different things that we could possibly have for the village, and I was one of the people that voted and picked some of the things to choose that would be nice for our village. Then, I'm not around a lot, but all of a sudden, I mean, it seemed like time passed, but then I was back in town in December, and here's this bond. So somehow I missed all the in-between, and I don't really know how we got from that voting of these different things to suddenly this $20 million bond. And I'm sure maybe that was part of the master plan that was developed even before that little chart went up. So I'm here with the conclusion that a lot of people maybe don't want this, or there wasn't any opportunity to know what the price was on each one of those items where we went from the little chart out there to this $20 million. So then I'm here to just say that maybe there's some kind of a disconnect between our village and the council or people. And so when I was at that meeting on the 29th, it was Jamie who said, well, come into the meetings, come in and talk to us. I'm not on social media. I don't know how to get on that neighborhood thing, but I'm just here to say, well, yeah, I'm coming to talk to you, and I hope other people will do the same. So then it was also mentioned at the meeting about the Newtown Road and different things that would be done in this bill. And I mean, again, that Newtown Road is so busy, and now if we're fixing roads, some people feel that, well, why are we fixing the roads so more people can come into our neighborhood? I just recently learned that, and I also don't like the fact that you had the leeway in this whole $20 million to do what you want at any time period. It just sounded like it was pretty open, because I know there was a cost to the bonds, and so you said you only wanted to do it twice, and so, I see a lot of empty carte blanche for you to just spend it as you like. Recently, I thought I read something about that Marvin was one of the second richest communities, and I'm very proud to live here, and I understand why you're trying to do the best you can for our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for your time and for coming out. All right, anyone else?
Next up is Tori Koniski, Painted Turtle Drive.
Hi, everybody. This is Tori Komisky. I'm at 312 Painted Turtle Court, also in Marvin Creek, so nice to meet you, neighbor. I'll generally be reading an email that I sent to the council on January 30th of this year regarding crime, specifically breaking and entering crimes as they pertain to walking trails, wooded walking trails that go behind people's homes. All of the following facts and insights came directly from a conversation with Detective Brandon Troll of the Union County Sheriff's Department. He is open to anyone reaching out to him on this topic. Point one, a breaking and entering robbery that happened very close to here on September 21st of 2022. It occurred at a house that backs up to the preserved trail. Access and egress was gained via the wooded walking trail, the preserved trail behind the home, per Detective Troll, who worked the case. Point two, crime on the rise. There have been 20 similar robberies since September 2022. I'll expand here just real quickly, saying that by similar, what I mean is that they were accessed and egressed using wooded trails going behind the homes. Wooded trails are frequently used for other crime as well, especially drug deals and especially when connecting different neighborhoods. Crime has continued to increase over the last year, even though there was an apprehension of one of the criminals in 2023. He urged me not to take, by he, I mean the detective urged me not to take comfort in the apprehension. There continue to be new threats. Marvin is especially vulnerable due to the high home values and easy access provided. Crime prevention. Trails through wooded areas are unnecessarily risky. Advertising these types of wooded trails to the broader community increases that risk further. Wooded trails that back up to people's backyards are the most risky and pose major privacy concerns, as well as simply making it easier for criminals to gain protected access to private homes. The detective shared that I am rightfully concerned about the safety of my home and my family if the Village of Marvin is planning to install and advertise a new wooded walking trail behind or adjacent to my home and other homeowners. I come to read this publicly because I know that there are rules with how you can remark when emails are sent to the group. This gives a great opportunity to get feedback from you all on how you feel about this information, whether it's new information to you, whether it's information you've looked to on your own. We'd all be very curious to know what your thoughts are on this. It's very close to home for me, literally, because this is a type of vulnerability I don't want introduced to my home. I have 3 young children. I live on a private cul-de-sac home that was chosen as part of that protection of my family. Aside from other issues, this is just one of the many why I'm against the trail connector between the preserve and Marvin Creek. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else? Austin? Okay. Hearing none, we're going to move on to presentations. Do we have any? I don't think so. Correct? So moving on to reports and updates. So a manager's report. Christina?
Yes, I had a couple of things. Excuse me. The parking lot quotes for Marvin Eford Park, we had initially discussed kind of doing the horseshoe for the extra parking. We're actually procuring a quote right now for the horseshoe and the top lot, so we can go ahead and try to mobilize them and get them done in one mobilization. We hope to have that back, and then we'll bring it to you at the next work session. We'll be ready to pull the trigger pretty quickly on that one. You'll hear in a couple of minutes, Jill's got some proposals for you for COVID funding, so we may not come back to you all for a budget approval if you're okay with what Jill presents. So that's all that I can remember I have at the time. Everything else I'll put in, I'm sorry. I did actually itemize it out. In the manager's report section, you'll also see an update on the Part F for Village Hall. Inside of there is the RFQ that we submitted for engineering. Basically what's going to happen from this is we will have consultants, engineering firms submit qualifications. We do have to make an award based on those qualifications where dollar factors are not in the consideration of a potential award. We will have this presented to you all in March, on March 28th, and this is for the Village Hall Park. We did exclude the Phase 2 of the design of the amphitheater from this proposal. We did feel like that would be a separate project in and of itself that would require an architect, which is a whole completely different process. So I know you guys wanted to have that included in this scope, as mentioned at the retreat, but we did pull that out just for purposes of it being a different scope of work and would require a different professional. So
that's the only thing that was removed, the amphitheater?
That's the only thing that was removed from the scope of work that we're asking for. So
Okay.
if you look at page 18 of your agenda, it does outline the scope of work for what we're looking for in this this engineer, which is the topographic survey of the Village Hall site, and this is this site over here adjacent to us. Environmental and cultural resource inventories and studies. This would include any wetlands as well. Assessment and incorporation of all necessary design guiding documents, which would include the master plan application, the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund Manual for local governments, the 2022 Village Hall Park Master Plan, and then the 21 Marvin Heritage District Small Area Plan. Those documents will be would basically, the RFQ covers that engineering, taking those consideration. They would also look at helping us through the bidding process when we go to bid for contractors. They would look at the conversion of the village's 30% bioretention pond plans to 100% construction plans. This is what we've been referring to as the dry pond, that is going to address some of those drainage issues from this DOT pipe up here. We've put that on hold until we can get this construction done. We can put it into the scope of work here. Would also include filing any necessary permits with the federal, state, and local entities for stormwater erosion control, sediment, and we would include wetlands in there as well. Y'all did advise that you wanted some level of parking on site. We are asking for that. That's itemized in the scope of work. We did also itemize out I thought we had a bladder on here for, I don't see it on here, but you all had asked for a underground water bladder for irrigation purposes. Did we take it out?
Yeah,
That's part of the retention pond. All we wanted to do is add a pump to that.
Okay, we'll look for it. I thought we added it in there, but I don't see it off the top of my head. But anyways, I say all that to say we'll have this all back to you on March 28th. Basically, what that means is we will, it is in there. We sent it out to about 10 firms, and we'll hope to get those firms back. What we'll do from there is we will review them at a staff level and look at the qualifications. We'll provide a recommendation to you all, and then at that point, you can authorize staff to start negotiations with that firm, and then we'll go over hourly rates and what we think it's going to cost, and then we'll bring back a contract at a later date for y'all to approve moving forward, and then they'll start. So if you look at this nice colorful sheet of paper that's in your agenda, this is the projected timeline. And this is a very strict timeline. We really can't stray from it too much, just based on when the completion of the project has to be fulfilled as a part of the grant requirements. March 28th is when the recommendation will come to council. We will have negotiations until around the beginning of May, and then we'll bring back to you all an authorization for contract in the middle of May, and then we'll give a notice to proceed from May to June. And then at that point, summer of this year, we would see the survey, the environmental cultural resource inventory and studies. And then we'll go into design phase for a few months. There are some changes that are being made, as you all know, with the UDO for conceptual design input from Design Review Board. If that actually takes place before this comes to you all, then that process will be removed. But if it's not removed, then they will have to review that as a part of the process. We are striving to have the conceptual design at the September work session with final design in October. So just keep that in mind. We really can't stray much from this because it puts everything behind if we do. We're not going to have a whole lot of time for back and forth with the engineers. We actually only put 2 to 3 meetings and presentations in the scope of work, so that's what their expectation is, whether that's council, whether it's Parks and Recreation, Planning Board. There's only 2 to 3 meetings that they will be attending and presenting. And then after that, in the fall of this year into the winter, we will go through the RFP process with contractors, and it will be very similar to what we experienced with Village Hall. And then we would give the notice to proceed in March of '25, and that gives several months for construction to happen and hopefully be completed. Do y'all have any questions on that?
Refresh my memory again on Part F.
It's the Parks and Recreation Trust Fund grant that we received. It's approximately $1 million at a 50% match, and it's for the construction of Phase 1 of Village Hall Park, which is the event lawn, rain garden, walking loop that's around the site itself, and then site amenities, which could include, a bench or 2, smaller site amenities, nothing extravagant, very small stuff.
Is this something that we had to do? Did we have to do Part F?
We did not.
Did we have to apply for a Part F grant?
We did not, no.
That's interesting. Okay, thank you.
does that reflect both the 500 and the 250, or was the 250 a separate grant?
The 250 is separate.
So that'll be on its own separate time schedule and everything?
Yes, we could either use that 250 as part of our 500 match. We do have to match the grant, so we do have to front the 500,000. we can use that 250 as a part of our match, or we can use that in addition to. I will remind you all,
And then do we have to match that 250 as well?
we do not.
Okay, so
No.
that one we don't have to match.
no, and I will remind you all that this is a reimbursement grant, so that we do have to front all of this money up front, and then we'll get reimbursed. Aside from this, we have the same thing with the CRTPO Greenways grant as well, and that's a $1.7 million project.
That money is coming from what someone suggested at another meeting, that was money we had access to.
The 1.7?
Well, the big bunch of funds, was that Mike?
No, the Part F
Using
grant.
that too? Okay,
Yeah.
but we were told we had a bunch, and I think you mentioned
Almost $3 million
in that
in
meeting.
our account, and what someone insinuated was that we have that money to do whatever we want to with it.
And we don't.
So I think you're referring to the fund balance, and there's approximately $1.8 million in unassigned fund balance. That is our rainy day fund that we refer to. That money is used for cash flow purposes. We only get paid once a year. As you all know, you pay your taxes one time a year. So we do have to float our operations for an entire year. There's points where, obviously, we're cash heavy right now because, we're just now getting our checks from taxes and associated fees. But there's, in December, we're fronting that money. Throughout the year, we're fronting that money that we accrue in January. But we also do have to use some of our unassigned fund balance for these projects, like I'm mentioning now, is there's not but so much turnaround when you have these reimbursable grants, and you have to kind of use that as cash flow until you get reimbursed on that money.
Can you say the last part again?
We have to use the unassigned fund balance portions of it for cash flow purposes until we are reimbursed. I will remind you all that this project, we submitted the grant. It's a $1 million project. It's the max amount that we can receive from Part F. If the project costs $1.5 million, we are still expected to pay the $1.5, and it's only reimbursed at $500,000. So if it costs $1.5, we are paying $1 million, not half of $1.5. We're only getting $500,000. So these grants are very particular. We are expected to achieve everything that's stated in the grant application, no matter what it costs, and it's very specific on that. So there's not a whole lot of leeway with changing things around. We can submit requests to them, but they do like to see things implemented the way we said we were going to implement. Are there any questions on Part F? Okay. Okay, the last thing, LEO coverage at Bonds Grove and Waxaw Marvin intersection. A couple of different things on here, and I actually wanted to read an email that I'd received from DOT back in November to talk about interim solutions. And I'm sorry, but I'm going to read this. This is an email sent to me on November 1st of 2023 from Sean Epperson, who is an NCDOT representative. I had sent an email to him inquiring on interim solutions for that particular intersection until the roundabout is constructed. And this was his response. We have reviewed this intersection for possible interim treatment prior to the roundabout being built. The first interim treatment we looked at was an all-way stop. Based on our analysis, an all-way stop is not a viable interim treatment. While the current stop-controlled approach saw a decrease in the delay of the all-way stop in place, the current non-stop controlled approaches saw an increase in delay. Some of these increases pushed the average vehicle delay on approach to over 200 seconds per vehicle, which is more than the daily average seen by the current stop-controlled approach. This increase is not one that we feel is providing an acceptable level of service, and therefore we do not feel an all-way stop is a viable interim solution. It's a lot of legalese from an engineer, but basically, in short, what they're saying is an all-way stop is not a solution they seem to. The second interim treatment we looked at was a traffic signal. Based on our analysis, a traffic signal with no added turn lanes could work at this intersection. None of these approaches saw an average vehicle delay as much as more than 30 seconds. While we consider a traffic signal a viable interim treatment from a traffic standpoint, the issue at this option is timing. The approximate time we would need to get a traffic signal installed is around 24 to 30 months after funding has been acquired. This would provide enough time to develop the right-of-way plans, acquire right-of-way, move utilities, and get the traffic signal installed. This would put the installation of the traffic signal sometime between December of '25 and May of '26. This is all assuming that we get the funding right away. This does not consider the time that it would take to find and secure the funding either, so you'd have to add that in. Currently, the roundabout is programmed for '28, to be built sometime in the summer of '28, but we do think we can get everything ready, plans developed, right-of-way acquired, and utilities moved for construction to take place in '27. This means that we would just be 1 to 2 years of using the traffic signal if we went that route. Based on this short time that the signal would be operational and not having certainty of when funding would be available, we do not feel this is the best option, would be prudent for the use of taxpayer dollars. So in short, I just wanted to let everyone know that we have looked at interim solutions. We have tried everything we can to find an interim solution, and DOT is basically telling us that there's nothing that they recommend at this point. I have asked them to consider installing some flashing lights in there. They've said that they're not going to do it. If we want to do it, we can. We'd have to do an encroachment agreement, and we'd have to pay for those lights. I have not cost those out. I will be more than glad to do so. But I just wanted to let you all know where we stood with that, and then let you know that both Union County and Waxhaw have declined assistance in LEO coverage for that intersection.
Really? Interesting. Okay.
So that's all that I have to report, unless you all want me to explore anything further.
Curious, this traffic, is it based on when we're in school session, or is it year-round?
Yeah, they did the study.
It is on.
I'll ask them to do a traffic study. It was sometime a couple weeks prior to that email, because I was very impressed of how quick their turnaround was to actually do it. So it would have been during school. It would have been done at the very earliest in October.
I know where it gets backed up. I'm very familiar with that area here, and it could be a little bit of an alleviation while we're trying to figure this out, but it would involve the high school, allowing kids who are going into the parking lot, because they're all coming that way and they're all making a right. Before that, where the buses go, there is another access to that same parking lot and they don't have buses running in and out all the time. If they just were allowed the kids that coming from that direction to pull in early, that would alleviate a lot of the traffic that backs up from the red light that's Crane Road. And again, it's where the buses go, but as you go up there, not more than 200 yards up, there's an open space where they can just open that up, and the kids can access the high school parking lot from two different ways. It would certainly do that, but it would take the coordination of the high school, which is always a challenge, because supposedly you're not supposed to have any unauthorized vehicles past a certain point, but they're not at that point yet. This access is right beyond the football field. I don't know if you remember where it is. But it would, I guarantee you, alleviate a lot of the backup and the traffic that happens, because kids are waiting all the way till they get to then they get in line to get to the other one. So it's something that maybe we can discuss with the county and/or school.
One other thing, can you confirm, when we asked Union County about perhaps posting officers there like we did prior to the other roundabouts, they declined because we would pay for the off-duty officers, but they didn't want to do it because it's too dangerous of a curve and intersection?
They didn't, I didn't get to that in the level of depth of their
Okay.
reasoning. They just, I spoke with the county manager, and he did not recommend it to be considered, so.
Okay.
He didn't specify
Who didn't
why.
recommend it?
Brian Matthews.
He's obviously
I
not
do-
sitting in it.
I do believe, I do
Doesn't make any
believe
sense.
he did send an email to the board and asked them if they were interested, they could speak, but he did point blank tell me that he didn't recommend it for approval, but I asked him to send it to the board. I'll try to find that email real quick.
I'd love to get a little more specifics why it wasn't recommended, or what was the reason why, because it's the same as all the other three roundabouts where we had, two roundabouts where we had officers. It was voluntary, and the money was there, and we were able to do that on two other roundabouts. I just don't see the...
All right, here's an email. It was on December 21st. Let's see, I will forward your email to the board members, but I can tell you that I would not recommend our board to participate in this cost. Understand that you have significant traffic pass through, but that can be said to a number of areas in the county. Let me see if the board wants to further discuss. And I followed back up. He said, followed back up on January 4th. He said, I've received no interest from the board to participate in the village's request. At this point, we will not be providing any cost share. That was on January 24th.
Okay, so they were just not interested in cost sharing. They're not saying we can't do it if we want to take it all on.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
We can do it if we pay for it, yes.
And we can't get Waxaw to consider the cost share of that, even though the majority of the cars coming through there are from Waxaw. We
Jeff,
can prove that.
I can try to find the email that I'd received from Jeff, but I do know they spoke about it in their retreat a couple of weeks ago, and they were, again, not interested.
Well, again, I would, all those listening online who say that you listen to the meetings and you have a problem down there on that end of town with that corner, I would suggest you call your county commissioners and ask them why they're not helping to participate in that corner as an interim solution.
So the estimates that I sent to them were based on 3 years, because that's where we had projected the total cost would be, and it was around $100,000 to $200,000 that we would have to come up with for the 3 years of coverage. So I don't have the specifics in front of me for the off-duty. I want to say at Newtown it was about $60,000 a year, but they've since changed their policy on how many officers they have at certain intersections, and that one in particular, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't require more than what they normally do. So I just need direction from y'all, what you want me to do in terms of getting additional quotes, if, coming back to y'all for a budget appropriation, or what you want to do, if anything, for that intersection. What hours, we would have to get specifics as to what hours you're looking for as well, morning and afternoon.
I would just do morning hours. That's just me.
Why don't you find out what Union County Sheriff's Office is going to require at that corner, so we have all the facts when we're making decisions, and then you can come bring that back to us.
Okay.
And in the
I'll get the-
meantime, I will reach out to the mayor of Waxhaw to see if he could present that back to his council, understanding the fact that most of those cars coming from that area would be Waxhaw vehicles.
Okay.
You wanna call the
And y'all
school
did say
too?
morning, you would prefer morning?
Yeah, I can call a school too.
Okay.
I'll reach, I don't know if that's a principal thing or,
Start with him.
You said you guys are all good with mornings
I
only?
think the only concerns is that, with that idea though, is wouldn't that put students kind of going in and out with the buses? Because I think that's the
they're not,
entrance.
they'd only be going in.
Yeah.
Buses would be going out, so buses usually mostly make right-hand turns there. But what I'm saying is that gets so backed up, those guys, everyone in that line all the way back to Bonds Grove, have to wait till they get to
Yeah,
Crane.
no, understood.
So they're making a right in, and it's just freeing up so much more. I guarantee you that. And again, I don't know how many kids are coming from that location, but I would imagine it's enough that would make a difference. It's just a thought, and they would need to open up that backside every time it's on a lock, so.
And y'all are good with morning only?
I'm sorry?
Morning only, not afternoons, just morning?
That's what I'm for. It's the only time I really see it's dangerous round the clock, but the morning commute is the bigger
Yeah,
issue.
it seems to be mostly morning, because that's the combination of people just commuting to Charlotte and the schools kind of going on, so.
Y'all have a general approximate range of time?
It really starts to back up at any time after 7 a.m.
Yep.
So you want me to look at the 6:30 to 10:30 range-ish?
I would even say 7 to probably 8:30 or.
Or they require 2 hours?
It's a 2 or 3 hour minimum.
If it's
I would say 7
Okay.
to 9.
Why don't you find out what they're going to require from us, bring it back to us, and instead of us back and forth, this time, that time, just find out what they require, and then we can make a decision.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Next up, planners report. You're not busy, are you?
I do have a few things to update you guys on. First being the UDO project. I know that we've had our first round of small group meetings. I will probably send an email to you guys to schedule the second round of that. Hopefully you guys have had a chance to go through that. But my goal is before our joint meeting, which is March 7th, is that correct? 9th, 5th, sometime in March, first week of March, with planning board. Have that second round of group meetings so that you guys are aware. And I can go ahead and get any potential questions, comments, and stuff either addressed or make sure that Rick and I are prepared to answer those during that meeting. Second thing is that we do have a public involvement meeting on Thursday here at Village Hall it's a 5-lot, it's considered a major subdivision just because they're installing a road, but it's a 6-acre tract right off of Newtown Road. So they're developing 5 parcels. That starts at 2:30. There's a session from 2:30 to 4:30 here, and then there will be one from 5 to 7. Council's welcome to come, but it's not as like a detailed or larger development per se. So, but they are following that same procedure, so they're required to have this. Final thing, which I have been talking with Jamie on, is that we are going to do a CRTPO like 101 training course here on February 27th. I believe that Jamie will be participating, and I just wanted to open it up for any other members of council, mainly to standard quorum too, but at the same time, the goal of that is potentially anybody interested in like the roads and everything that CRTPO has to offer. It's kind of a crash course on everything, and then we'll kind of go from there and probably come and do a formal presentation to council, just so then all of council gets at least the main topics that out of the whole pot of that. So if any other council members are interested, just please let me know and we'll get you scheduled. But that will be on February 27th here at Village Hall, I think at 11. I'll check at the time on that. Any questions on anything? All right, that's all I got.
Thank you, Hunter. Next up, roads report.
I don't have anything.
Nothing for roads? Next up, deputies report. We have our deputy here. Did you guys get a chance to look at all the speeders in the, on Marvin? I know, Andy, you probably did. Right next to your house there. Did you have 18 vehicles speeding at 75 more? Any questions on that? No one's here to answer them, but we'll move on. Next up, we have planning board report. Is that Bob?
Yeah, pretty much.
Thanks,
Nestor
guys.
covered it, where we finished up on the Marvin Development Ordinance, and now we're just getting the rest of the council and up to speed and getting ready for the meeting in March. So it was very thorough, and it's a really good project. So thank you, Nestor, for putting that all together.
That's all I got?
That's it.
Thank you. Next up, a PRNG board report.
So there's a couple of items that we discussed in the monthly PRG board meeting. One, we did have a discussion around the bees, Kimberly. And I think the general consensus was there is a lot that goes into the bees. We actually do have a lot of bees that visit the park, especially in the pollinator garden, the cottage garden that we do have up front. And I think just given some of the concerns that people have with us being able to take care of the bees, kind of get a place that's safe for the general public where they wouldn't necessarily be kind of out in the open because you worry about people that have allergies, things of that nature. I think they want to focus more on creating areas within the park to attract the bees, but not necessarily to keep the bees. The other topic that we spoke about at length was the idea about a tree nursery and identifying some areas that we could potentially do something like that, whether it be on parkland or other kind of areas that we have in terms of easements or things like that. There were a couple of discussions around the types of ways that you do nurseries these days, because if you're growing to eventually move it, there's a couple of methods that they use in terms of either growing in bags already or growing in some type of gravel channels. And what that allows to do is to get a lot of the nutrients and things to the roots. It allows the trees to kind of grow faster. And then when you actually pull them to transplant them, you're really pulling them, and it's really just the roots. It's not a whole dirt ball where you need a machine to dig it out and things like that. So we're doing some more research, because of course the intent of this is to identify areas that we can take some small seedlings, things of that nature that we can sometimes get for free, and start growing some of these things ourselves rather than the village always having to go out and purchase trees for screening, other needs like that. But we had a good discussion about it with some more next steps to come.
You've done your homework on bees and trees, I guess. All right, thanks, John.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, I forgot, as I was looking at my notes here, to the planning board meeting, because we had two meetings. One was deferred to go over the Marvin Development Ordinance, but in the original meeting that we had, because we had two meetings that month in January, the big discussion that's coming up amongst the planning board members is the Heritage at Marvin elevations. That is the homes, the designs of what they saw. And the planning board has some issues about it being historical enough, the look of the homes. So I just wanted to mention that. There is discussion in the planning board about that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I think I've seen those drawings, so. All right, moving on, we'll go to event planning. Tyler.
Yeah, just update, Easter egg hunt, March 23rd. That'll start at 10 a.m. if anybody wants to come out. We'll have 3 separate egg hunts. After that, we will have Marvin Day, April 27th. That'll begin at 4 p.m. If you look at the handout, I gave you the colorful one, you'll see the summary of the sponsorship. I also sent you guys that in an email earlier. You can see that total number, and we will probably wrap up sponsorship on Friday. That's pretty much been our deadline for the 15th, 15th, I think it's Friday. And then we'll start getting all of our logos and everything together out on the marketing end. And then June 1st, we will have a 5K/health fair. We will base it at the elementary school over here, and it'll look a lot like the 5K that was attached to Marvin Day last year, but it'll be its own event this year. And that's all I got for events. Any questions?
Where are we at on fundraising as funds in or funds proposed?
We're creeping up. In money sponsored there at the very bottom, that 34.
Okay, so that's received is only 19 of the 30. I didn't see this. I'm sorry.
Right. Yeah, and we only have a few people outstanding left, and we've been in contact with all of them. They're all either in the mail or waiting on a check to be cut from their finance and stuff like that. We should be cut even by the end of the week.
And last day being the 15th, which is Friday?
Yeah, this Friday, I'm going to try to have everybody that we have
From
committed.
everyone in council, if you're talking to someone, just a note, a reminder.
Right.
Yeah.
Just try to close the deal
Okay.
soon. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Jill, are these numbers all up to date as of today? Is that what is this, yeah? Because I had somebody who said that they paid last Wednesday, and it's Service Master.
Their payment never really went through, kind of got stuck, so we communicated with them, they're going to try it again.
They haven't tried it again yet?
I emailed him. Yeah, I emailed him earlier today because he had emailed me and said he paid, but it was like pending, kind of got
Okay.
lost in.
It just probably got glitchy, so he's going to do it again today.
All right,
If
moving.
you don't have that by tomorrow, let me know and I will text him.
Moving on, coffee with council debrief. Who had the last coffee with council? Was that me?
I think it was you and I, Joe.
You and I. We had one resident from Marvin
Courtyards.
Gardens, the courtyards. And nice conversation. Was looking forward to having us because we were going in that Friday. Again, same kind of stuff, so nothing really new, but just, I think he was pretty much in favor, is what he was saying, and he just,
I think he was kind of trying to get an idea too of what we'd be talking about when we visited the
right,
courtyards.
right. He was concerned we're gonna take too much of their social time, which
Yeah.
I think we did a decent job of keeping that to a minimum. But really, and for the person back there, you mentioned about talking, that's a great opportunity, the Coffee with Council, to have these discussions one-on-one and figure out, hey, this is what we're doing with this. Or if you have an idea, that's a perfect opportunity for us to say, okay, well, I'll take that back to council and stuff. So the fact that you missed some things and things were missed is, as far as you're concerned, these are great ways to get dialogue and get updated on that as well. And that's twice a month, once in the morning and once in the evening, Tuesdays and Thursdays. One Tuesday a month, one Thursday a month, and you have the schedule on that.
Next one is Tuesday, February 27th at 6 PM here.
And who's going to be there? Doesn't matter. Could be anyone. So we just kind of rotate of who goes in there, so it's not a quorum of council members. Absolutely, yeah. We get no one. We sit here and just talk to each other. All right. Moving on, WUMA report. I was not at that, but I think a few.
Yes, that was me. All right, so on our old business, the discussion of the conditional annexation bill, we decided to table that until the next meeting where you could come and give us an update, Mr. Mayor. And then we talked about the State Traffic Safety Grant Program, which we had David Williams from Union County Sheriff's Office come and speak. He was actually a member of that grant committee, so he is pretty much an expert on everything that they do, and he gave us a presentation on how the grant works and all that. Weddington is very excited about it. They would like to possibly partner with other municipalities to try to get a program in place in our area here. The discussion on exemption from payment for published notices for certain meetings, that was tabled because Steve wasn't there to talk about it. And then Jeff said that he invited Union County Commission's Chair, J.R. Rowell, and Union County Manager Brian Matthews to the February 22 WUMA meeting in Mineral Springs. He noted at the March 28th meeting that he hoped to invite Union County legislative delegation and have the meeting at a larger venue, and have an evening meeting so that more people could attend.
I think we were trying for Forest Hills and it wasn't available, is what he's saying there.
Real quick, before you move on from WUMA, Mr. Mayor, I did have a resident communicate to me that they felt like it would be worthy for y'all to mention the Bonds Grove Waxaw Marvin assistance at WUMA, just the off-duty assistance, financial assistance. So just wanted to mention it.
Oh, mention it.
Yeah.
To other communities.
Yeah.
To see if they'll pitch in.
Correct.
Yeah, it'd be great to have them take it back. I know Weddington would say no, because that's nowhere near them. Mineral Springs would. Waxaw's already said no directly, it sounds like. So it's really, trying to think who else would cut through there, what municipality would use that.
Yeah, it's really just Waxaw.
It's really just Waxaw, I'm thinking.
I just thought I'd mention it since it was mentioned to me.
Okay, thank you.
And that's basically it for WUMA.
All right. Thank you, Andy, and my apologies, I'm getting back to my, okay, next up, we have consent agenda. There's nothing on the consent, so nothing to approve. Next up, we have public hearings. Public hearing, do I have to open this, or is this not even going to be discussed? Or what's?
You can open the hearing.
Okay, so,
You don't
next up, we have public hearing to discuss and consider boundary revisions to the annexation agreement with Weddington. And I'll need a motion to,
You don't need a motion.
okay, because I don't think it's going to happen. You're going to take this, I assume?
Yeah. So in short, this was originally being proposed to, basically to revise our annexation agreement with Weddington, to revise the boundary, because there was a potential development. What the village has done is that we proposed to Weddington to actually, instead of trying to revise that boundary, just take those out and leave them as just fair game, per se. And I submitted that to Weddington to see if they were okay with those terms. I've not heard back. But in short, the whole reason why this was being approved for that potential development that came to the village first, that development has fallen through. So there's nothing that's being proposed at those sites at this current moment. So this isn't really needed, but if we still want to work on these revisions, maybe for future, then we can, the council can decide to still, request this amendment to Weddington, and let's see if Weddington also will agree, because since this agreement's between the both of us, both the village and the town of Weddington have to agree to it. But I can go into detail on what the amendment is, but in short, those parcels that are identified in your guys' packets, and I was trying to pull them up, but basically that boundary would, if you look in the current plan and where the boundary is at, there's certain parcels that are quote-unquote unidentified, or what was the term, Chaplain, do you recall? Undesignated. So it's basically where they're not designated in our annexation area or Weddington's. So then they would just fall under the normal annexation statutes, meaning that they, since they abut both properties, abut both our municipal limits and the town of
But they would
Weddington.
never go into unincorporated. It'd be one or the other, is what
Well,
you're saying.
it's still unincorporated.
Right.
All because, and just to clarify, for the annexation agreements in place, basically for planning purposes between us and Weddington, it doesn't mean that those properties are going to be annexed into the village. It's just basically if there was a potential development and they were looking to annex, they would have, if they were in whatever boundary, that's the municipality that would get to annex them.
Gotcha.
And that was the case for this one, and he came to us first, but it's in this weird area where the line kind of drops down. And so we did send the applicant to Weddington. Weddington zoning ordinance wouldn't allow this, and I think even their staff confirmed. And he can do what he was proposing at the current zoning with the county. It was mainly for probably alcohol sales is part of the reason he was looking for annexation. And so that's when it got back to us, and we initiated this with Weddington. So, like I said, it's up to us. I mean, if we want to still pursue just going ahead and getting these areas undesignated for future, staff can keep working on that. But if not, we can just kind of let it be for now until a potential, future development comes into play.
So and I'm looking at the map that you had here, the the one from above. So it would include the storage unit place?
Yeah,
So
basically.
it has those developed ones where they kind of crossed Newtown, which was a little wonky.
Yeah, and so, the simplest way to do it, because, and just for, the public listening, it was basically the intersection of where the CVS, is it CVS? CVS,
yeah.
Auto Bell, and the storage facility, and those unvacant, basically there's,
Auto Bell would be
yeah, Auto Bell,
included in
and,
there.
which is just currently in unincorporated Union County. There are certain parcels that have already been developed and part of Union County. But there was about 28 acres that's basically like an L shape between Newtown Road and Providence that was undeveloped, and that was the site of a potential development. It would have still had to go through our rezoning and approval processes. It was just, he basically wanted to see that the annexation was still a key part in their long-term vision for that, and that's why it was being initiated this way. But so what staff did is basically just take that whole corner out. Once again, it's not saying that CVS or any of that would ever be annexed into the village, but for some reason, if they ever wanted to, or if CVS would go out of business, whatever, then it would open the opportunity that they could. Any questions?
Any questions from council?
Can we just wait and see what Weddington says?
Yeah, part of the process was to have the public hearing, so we, after this, that staff will work and go back to Weddington. They wouldn't have this on their agenda until their March meeting, because I think they met last night. And if they decide to move forward, then staff can put this on your guys' agenda to adopt an ordinance revising the annexation agreement, and that can be on your guys' March agenda as well. Is that?
Yeah, we do need to identify the parcels. Those are in your agenda packet. There are 12 parcels. I am not going to read them out, but you have them and they're part of the record. So it's the 12 parcels on page 34 of your agenda packet. So you know what parcels they are, and the agenda packet's part of the public record.
I only count 11, but
Yeah, I only see 11 too.
I don't see 11. Unless you talk those straight lines.
There's a couple of flag lots, but I only see 11 too.
Refresh my memory, just where the coffee place is that unincorporated Union County?
Yes, sir.
And
Yeah,
then-
and that corner that's already developed, I think it's, isn't it Newtown? Or
In Weddington, I think.
it's unincorporated.
Okay.
But
And the other-
basically, this annexation boundary, originally, I mean, in theory, when you really look at it, it should have been Newtown Road. I mean, and kind of Newtown and Providence, especially with us having Marvin Gardens here. The only reason that when this boundary was revised, I think back in 2020, they have that large tract that's already a part of the town of Weddington and their municipal limits that goes south of Newtown Road. And that's where the boundary just kind of shifted to basically the outside of Providence per se. And so that's where these parcels got included in their boundary, which, once again, it's still subject to if those properties ever want to be annexed, but
Okay, no other questions?
No, I do. Is it 11 or 12? Because I'm counting 12 on the list, and I'm counting 11 in the picture.
Yeah.
Who is that?
oh, that's right. The one other parcel that was identified since we were revising this agreement was the Marvin.
Oh, is that this
It's the
one?
Marvin Methodist Church.
The next picture?
Oh, I
Yeah.
see it.
Okay.
That church was accidentally given to Weddington when the boundary was revised.
Okay, that
in
wouldn't make 12.
2020. That we've asked for it back to be in our annexation area, since it's the new location of a historic church.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, but this needs to be answered by staff or council.
What do you mean?
People in the audience are answering questions.
Oh, no, I thought Jill.
No, it's not Jill.
Okay. All right. Anything else from anyone? Any other questions for Hunter? All right, thank you. Moving on, unfinished business.
You do need to give the public the chance to speak.
Oh,
I
okay.
will note that no one has signed up at this time.
Okay. So should we ask if anyone wants to speak? Would anyone like to speak on this public hearing? Hearing none, I will move on
You need to say
to motion to close well, we didn't open it.
You don't need a motion, you just need to say it's closed. You're the mayor, you have the
Okay.
floor.
Okay, so it's closed. Thanks for I have some authority here. All right, moving on, unfinished business. Next up, we have state and local fiscal recovery funds update. Thank you.
While she's passing this around, I'll just go ahead and kind of introduce this item. So if you recall, we received some grant funding for COVID. I think it's called State and Local Relief. We've been spending it for various projects based on what was originally authorized 2 years ago. we've encumbered a little bit, and we've also have a little bit of a surplus that we want to potentially use for parking, basically. So I'll let Jill kind of go into that. We had told you guys that we had a little bit more money that we wanted to kind of allocate somewhere, and we're ready to do that, so that's what she's going to present.
Yeah, so essentially, we have to have the rest of our funds allocated by the end of this calendar year, but we have until 12/31 of fiscal year 26 to 7 to spend it, so we have to spend it by that date. Our goal would be to spend as much of it as possible, as fast as possible. So that's sort of what you're going to see here in this detailed breakdown of expenses and encumbrances. You'll see fiscal year 23 to 24. What is already highlighted for you is money that's already been spent. The other items are, that is our recommendation of what we spend it on this fiscal year. It will eat up a big chunk of the $300,000 or so that we have left. And then we are spreading the rest of it out over the next 3 fiscal years. However, we will be presenting you guys with the CIP in March. And if there's anything in the CIP that y'all are really passionate about that you want to have done sooner, then we could always utilize these funds. Instead of spreading it out over the next few years, we can use the money to complete one of those projects, and I'll revise this and re-present it for you. But as of right now, before having you guys change course based on the CIP, this is sort of just a plan for how we plan to spend the rest of it.
So in short, what she's basically saying is that we've recognized things based on technologies that we've added over the last couple of years, financial technology, AV technology, and we've tried to encumber those things over the next several years that can comply with this grant funding, so that we are basically in turn reducing operational costs every year. We're using these funds to reduce operational costs, which basically means we don't need as much money to run these various projects in our operating budget. That being said, we have tried to encounter a couple of larger expenses within this funding, so that again, we're not tapping into operational costs to fund those things. There's approximately $80,000 that we are planning to move forward with to use in the parking lot of Marvin Eford Park, if you guys agree to what she's presenting to you all. That's the gist.
So there's 343 left?
There was 343. I've already spent a little over 40,000 of it, so there's 303 left.
Okay.
And this is a breakdown of how that money totals up, so that we end with a net of 0, and we've spent every
Understand.
dollar that we've gotten.
Understand. And that, I see in the past, we used it for police and safety services?
Yes, so we had different categories that we were allowed to spend it across when the money was first given, and then there was a revision to that came out for the 22 to 23 fiscal year. But yes, all in all, the bulk of these funds went to police and safety, infrastructure, things like that.
So with that, including directing traffic?
It did pay for traffic, yes. It paid for the law enforcement at the Newtown Marvin intersection.
Okay.
Before you go down that road, though, Mr. Mayor, I just want to mention,
I'm going down a road?
if you look at the detailed breakdown of the encumbrances, I don't know this number off the top of my head here, but you've got 15, 16, 17, so that's, looks like roughly $50,000, $60,000, give or take, maybe even a little bit more. If you're going to take this money away from these things that we've encumbered, we would have to figure out how to absorb that into our operating budget, which means a tax increase. We don't have $60,000 laying around that we can just throw at these items that we've already encumbered for those technological expenses. So I'm just putting that out there, just before you start taking my money.
I was not going to take it.
Oh, it's her money now. I thought it was mine. Just kidding.
All I know is you two are looking to spend it quick. You did say that.
Well,
Just because we have a timeline on it.
well, in fairness, we have a lot of grants, and just in general, our goal when we get the grant money is to spend it as fast as possible. So even though the government has given us a generous timeline, we don't want to be just sitting on funds. We'd like to use it to accomplish our goals and keep moving forward, so.
Okay. Any questions from council?
Is anyone opposed to anything that you see in here as a proposed expense for this fiscal year? Or any questions on those items?
Just, I know we talked about the horseshoe at Marvin Eford Park. What was the second parking lot? Oh, the top lot. Expanding the top lot. Gotcha.
Yeah.
And that was, we were going to focus some more handicap capable.
Yes, additional ADA parking, just a more
we need more
streamlined
ADA
kind of
stuff.
parking situation. And our thoughts are we could probably get a price break if we do both parking lots at the same time, so they only have to mobilize once, and we can take advantage of a savings there.
Makes sense.
So we would move forward with the parking lot expansion of both the horseshoe and the top lot if it falls within that $80,000 without coming back to you all for an additional authorization. So if you're okay with it, then we're not going to come back and present that to you all. We've already bid the concrete and asphalt out as an RFP separately a couple of years ago. So we're already under a contract where we get that at the lowest possible cost anyways. We wouldn't need a waiver of bids or anything like that. We would basically just be piggybacking off of what we already have in place. We would have to come back and do a concrete sidewalk to connect the parking lot to the actual area for
The
ADA
pathway
compliance.
that goes by the bathroom
Yeah.
there? Yeah.
We did.
Yeah.
We did, but y'all had, at that point, had only authorized us to do the horseshoe. And we're trying to do it at the same time to save in the mobilization cost.
And we're still trying to keep the tree. We're not making that all parking,
Correct.
which was originally discussed.
Yes. Now, we do have some design concerns with the horseshoe. We think we're still working that out and hashing it out. We think it's not going to be as functional as we initially thought with kind of angling things. So we would like to discuss the possibility of just doing it more of a rectangle than a horseshoe. Now, if y'all don't like that approach, then we're working on some plans to draw some things out so you can see it, and we can bring that to you all. If you are insistent, we do the horseshoe.
As far as I'm concerned, I want to keep those trees, if at all possible.
Well, we wouldn't take them down. We would just change the layout into more of a rectangle approach than an actual horseshoe.
If it,
The outer boundaries would be
if
more
it-
rectangular.
One yield more than the other?
We're still working on the design. I can't
as
answer
long
that.
as, I mean, I'm open to whatever works the best, as long as we're not cutting down trees. I mean, because that's kind of, that keeps the parking lot cool. And of course, I'm big about keeping trees, so that's my only concern. If you can shape it however you want to, as long as we're not taking out
Okay.
trees, I'm fine with how it's shaped.
Is everybody okay with that? And is everybody okay with allocating the $80,000 to the parking? I don't know how much it's going to be. We're still working on the quotes, but we're just projecting it's going to be at least that. No, we would not, unless it's in, yeah. Yes. Well, actually, more than whatever we have left in the park projects, which is what, 30-ish? Around 30? Because we had come to you all at the last meeting and said, hey, we've got roughly 30,000, can we do the horseshoe? You said, yeah. So now we're, excuse me, identifying this additional 80. So essentially, we have the 80 plus the 30 that we wouldn't have to come back for additional appropriation. But we're not going to get any cheaper bids than that because we're under the contract, is what I'm saying. So even if it's within that, it's not like we're going to get a cheaper quote.
And really what we're talking about, whether it's horseshoe-shaped or rectangular, is just what's the most effective way to get the most spots, still keep those trees we were talking
Right.
about.
We're not planning on removing any trees based on the direction last meeting.
Okay.
So just to confirm, everyone is okay with allocating the 80,000, not
Yes.
coming back? Okay.
You okay, Bob, with that?
I'm fine with that, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on, new business. We don't have any new business today, so open topics. Does anybody have anything for open topics?
Being new, does open topics just?
It's open.
Okay.
I mean, we can, if we can potentially talk about it now, but maybe something for what we're
Future
gonna be-
meetings,
future
yeah.
meetings, yes.
I know we've had a lot of discussion about proposed greenways and stuff, and that Waxhaw Marvin corridor, and whether that makes sense or not. I've got some ideas about that, you know, living over there and knowing Valhalla, Providence Estates pretty well. So in some future meetings and stuff, I have some ideas about that we can share.
Do you want to do that at like a work session and just put it on
Probably
the
the
agenda?
work session, yeah, maybe the
Okay.
next work session.
And we
would
can
be
tie
appropriate
in,
place.
you know, what information that we, you know, were shared with today and all that kind of stuff about where things go, where they're located. That sounds good. We'll put that on the,
Work
that's your-
session
put that on the agenda, okay? Anything else from anybody?
I'd put that on the March work session, so we know if the bonds pass or don't pass, and then we'll know if we have money to do anything.
Yeah, and it would probably be long-term anyway, because anything kind of associated with the Waxhaw Marvin corridor would likely be one of the later things.
Okay.
We'll put it on the March work session.
Yeah, that's fine.
Everyone okay with that? Yep. All right. No one else with any other open topics? Moving on to review of action items. It's
Really
got to be a
short.
lot.
Really short list today. Christina is going to follow up with the Union County Sheriff's Office for the requirement for the officers at Bonds Grove, Waxhaw, Marvin, required time minimums and number of officers. We're going to move forward with the parking lots, since you guys are okay with that funding allocation. Hunter's going to come back with information from Weddington on the annexation agreement, and we will put this discussion of the Waxhaw Marvin corridor on the March work session.
Any other comments for Austin? I think we covered it all. All right, moving on, review of Mayor Pro Tem's list. Mayor Pro Tem list.
Austin, you ready?
Yep.
All right, midway down, you've got off-duty coverage. You can go ahead and complete that. You can complete the Village Hall Dry Pond. You can push off the pickleball court quotes. You can complete the Marvin Day sponsorships.
When you say push off the quotes, what do you
Pickleball, till, just say
After.
April.
April, okay.
Did we execute the Spectrum agreement?
It's on my desk to be executed today. It'll probably happen tomorrow.
So, no?
No.
Okay. Davey, are you getting additional lights for the park? Thank you. Christina, you took care of the differential in the Marsh budget
I'm sorry.
for the trees?
Yes, I did,
Yes.
yes.
Okay. Okay, that's it.
All right. Oh, I lost my page here. Okay. Moving on to council comments. Does anyone want to go first? Wayne, you got anything? Bob, you're in La La Land. You get to go first.
Yeah, I'm in snow.
Where are you, by the way?
I'm in Connecticut, up here.
Okay.
And, no, I have no comments, thank you.
Okay, thanks. John?
No comments from me.
No comment. Andy?
I'm good.
Wayne? Oh, my goodness. Should I go to Kim or Jamie? Kim?
Happy early birthday, Wayne. Happy early birthday, Joe.
Thank you.
And no other comments.
Okay. Kim? Jamie?
I just want to start out by recognizing that everybody on this council are residents of the village of Marvin. We all go to the same grocery stores. Our kids go to the same schools, most. We go to church together. We do everything together as a community. On this council, you have 3 veterans that served for everyone's right for free speech. And I'm all for it. I know there's things about signs being put out that says no, vote no for the GO bond. I'm all for it. I respect that. Every presentation I've given, I've told everyone, I respect your vote, yes or no. If it's no, I respect it. If it's yes, I respect it. That's your personal decision to do. I am embarrassed and appalled that our neighbors, and I call them keyboard warriors because they go out on social media, and I'm not on social media. I had someone approach me about it. Print them off and send them to me. You can call me whatever you want. I know this council very well. I know each of them. And I know there's not one of them on this council. They would cut their arm off before they would do something corrupt, unjust, without integrity, anything. You can call us you can call me whatever. You can call me fat, you can call me ugly, you can call me whatever name you want to call me. I don't care. But when you accuse me or this council for doing something corrupt, and you know who you are out there on social media, and I hope that you are listening. If you accuse us of doing something, you bring it to us, please bring us facts. If you've got information on it and you feel like something's not right, you bring it to me. I'll be the first one to stand behind you and go and address any council member or any staff member for doing something unjust. But for this council to step up, our job was not to force you to vote yes for a bond. Not once did we say, you must vote for this. Not once did we force you to do anything. All our responsibility was, we're trying to address issues that we see coming down the road 1, 5, 10, 15 years down the road. And we're doing everything we can to address them. I don't want my taxes to go up no more than you. But I'm embarrassed and appalled that people go on social media and people are walking around and claiming that follow the money. Follow the money. It's embarrassing. If you've got an accusation of someone doing something unjust or criminal or taking bribes or getting kickbacks, please let me know. And if you want to accuse me of it, bring me facts. But it's appalling, it's embarrassing that this community cannot just accept the fact that we did our job by coming up with a bond referendum, and all we ask of you is to go and vote yes or no. But playing personal games with people, these people have kids in school. They go to school with your kids. They go to church with your kids. They have families that interact with one another. Stick to saying, I don't agree with it, and I respect it. I don't tell anyone if you vote no because you can't afford it. I don't say that because you vote no, there's a certain reason that makes you in a negative light. Not one of us have ever said that. So can we at least have the decency to just use your vote as yes or no? I'll respect it. But I'm embarrassed. It's not my job. Our job was to present you with the means to take care of issues we see coming down the pipe. We're not trying to, I don't know of anyone we're trying to get a kickback. This staff has worked their butts off. And this council has worked their butts off to give you something that you can make the decision on. And then We have, and listen, it's just a handful of people, and I'm embarrassed for you, that want to throw accusations out at people. And it's beneath this community. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jamie. To kind of tag on to that, I wish I had the opportunity I had today where an individual pulled me aside and said, give me the skinny, and it was just a one-on-one conversation. Sometimes it's a lot easier to, talk about what we've faced and what we have faced over the last 10 years. I've seen it coming. There's reasons why multiple municipalities do this and offer it. Again, it's up or down vote. We're bringing it to the community to decide, not for us to decide, but we have to give the community options, and that's exactly what we're doing. And that's why you see this kind of alternative financing happen across the country, if you will. Bonds are very common, and again, all we want is to get the proper, you guys, the proper education. That's what we're trying to do. Personally, when it comes to social media, I'm not on any of it. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist, even though we'd like to respond, I'm sure, based on what comments I hear on some of the comments that come out on Nextdoor, those type of things. But you have to understand, we can't even do that. We don't have that because technically we would need to have a meeting to discuss how we were going to respond to something so we can officially respond. I can't just call Austin and say, Austin, send a note about what they're saying in Nextdoor and saying they're totally wrong. Everything is done by committee. That's why things are done so slowly, but that's why governments move so slowly, because they're done by committee. And I would like to point out what Jamie is saying. If there are accusations out there, every year, correct me if I'm wrong, Jill, we have an audit, right? And we are required, each of us, council members, to sign saying we are not aware of any wrongdoing from staff and or council or anything that we are aware of. Every year, we sign that agreement that we don't know anything. So I'm proud to say that I've been here 10-plus years, and there's a lot of crazy stuff that has gone on, but it's more personalities than anything else. But corrupt, no. And again, there's been a lot of work put into this, and all it is to give options to the community. That's what we want to present, and up or down vote, it's going to go the way it goes, and we'll see how it happens. With that, that's all.
One more point, because I do want to be clear. I'm not a keyboard warrior, but I'm also not going to use this bully pulpit, so to speak. So, because if someone has an issue with anything that I've said, if someone has an issue of whatever, please call staff and schedule a meeting, and I will be here to have that discussion with you. Thank you.
All right. That said, I think we've got a lot off our chest, which is good. We're going to move into closed session, which when we come out, all we're going to be doing is, we won't necessarily announce anything. What we're doing is closing the meeting, right? That's what I understand. So we're just going to go into closed session.
Yeah.
No intent to take action after.
No action is being taken,
All right.
so
You ready?
I'll need a motion to move into closed session.
Make a motion to move into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143318.11A3 and 1 to review closed session minutes and to consult with an attorney retained by the public body to preserve attorney-client privilege.
Further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Hearing none, passes unanimously. We're now in closed session. Thank you.